Jump in the back of the pickup truck and join us for a ride back to the good old days.
Are you telling me you built a time machine?
A nostalgic podcast based on entertainment and memories from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. Come with us and revisit the best time ever. So jump on your BMX bike, pop a heavy metal tape into your Walkman, and hang on tight while you go back to the past with us.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Hey, welcome to Pastimes at 80s High. Another episode for you today of we are calling the Decades series, and we are doing our favorite albums from the year 1980. But what we're going to start out with for each of these shows is we're going to do a little bit of a news background just to remind people of a few things that happened that year. So, Kev, I'm going to hand that one over to you to start out.
Well, one of the news events in the music world from 1980 that stuck in my young mind was on January 16th, Paul McCartney was arrested in Tokyo for the possession of half a pound of marijuana. And we kind of laugh at that today because most places marijuana is legalized. But even back then, as a young lad, I remember thinking, couldn't he have paid somebody to carry half a pound of weed? Also, did you really need a half a pound? I mean, how much was he smoking at that time? I don't know how long the Japanese tour was supposed to last, but seems like half a pound might have been an extravagant amount just to carry on your person for the flight.
Maybe he was sharing. I don't know.
Well, he could have been. I mean, he's a very nice individual from what I hear.
Like you said, though, maybe a roadie.
Maybe hide in the base cab like everybody else did. I don't know.
Awesome. All right, Mark, to you.
Okay, well, my memory is John Bonham dying on September 25th. At only 32 years old, apparently he drank about 40 shots of vodka and died of pulmonary edema. And that was so tragic on so many levels because arguably the best hard rock band in history is Led Zeppelin.
Oh, man, yeah.
And he just had an incredible way of drumming. He was just behind the beat, and this is what ended Led Zeppelin, and they just didn't want to keep going without him. And apparently, there wasn't another drummer that could do the same thing he did. But yeah, sad day,
and pretty cool. I mean, how they held that. You know what I mean? Just nowadays, they replace him with the drum tech the next day,
or a drum machine.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the two people that have infamously filled in for John, his son and Phil Collin, both arguably failed miserably.
Well, yeah, and there was just festivals and such.
Right. Atlantic Reunion and.
All right. Well, one of my favorites of that year is, we all know Peter Criss left Kiss, and then Eric Carr replaces him and performs at the Palladium, which this is on July 25th, 1980, and it was just, I think what's so great about it is that show, they actually had a fucking rockabilly band open up that was booed off the stage completely, and then Eric Carr comes out and, everyone sees the double kick, and just, he kicked ass, and the Kiss fans just welcomed him with open arms. And, that's pretty big when you're replacing Peter Criss, probably at that point, arguably one of the biggest bands in the world. So, a couple years prior at least, but he was welcomed, and that was just a great story to me. And to you, Donnie.
So closing out the year was December 8th, 1980, was the unfortunate murder of John Lennon. It happened in New York City. Mark David Chapman was I guess you can't call him an assassin unless you want to dip into the conspiracy theories, because he had the Catcher in the Rye in his pocket, and everybody remembers the movie. I can't remember it off the top of my head, where all the assassins had a copy of Catcher in the Rye in their pockets, and some believe the MK Ultra program had a connection to all of them. But that's
for
for
sure,
another
sir, man.
podcast for another day.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Donnie. So we are going to start our albums now. So number 10 to you.
Cool. And with these decade and all the albums, it's not necessarily, for me, it's not always my favorite album, or it's what kind of had resonance to me at the time in 1980. How did the music make me feel, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But not necessarily what I would say is my favorite. But to start it off, for me, at number 10 is
Devo
would be Devo, Freedom of Choice, with classic like Whip It.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I wouldn't go out and buy that album, but it was everywhere in 1980, and I just
video.
remember it, hearing it on the radio over and over again, and it's a catchy tune.
What do you call
I mean, it's
Them
not what I would go out
shoveling.
and listen to, but you hear it, and it's just got a catchy tune to it.
Absolutely.
what would you call those things on their heads? I don't. Was there a technical
Like
name for that?
plant pots.
I think they were. I think they were. I think they were actually.
And shoveling.
Yeah, the look did nothing for me.
Yeah, right.
Really, the sound of the music did nothing for me, but it was just a catchy tune, and it reminds me very precisely of 1980.
Yeah. And they were interesting almost because they were funny when you saw the video on MTV, you know?
Oh, absolutely. But talented musicians as well. I mean,
Yep.
they were definitely part of that new wave style. But like, if you ever look at what Mark Mothersbaugh has done since then, it's like everything from the Rugrats to half the movies that you've seen, Mothersbaugh did the soundtracks.
Right? Yeah. Definitely talented. All right, Kev, to you.
To me, so my number 10 from 1980, and I'm going to hear all four of you are going to go, oh, when I say this.
It's going to happen a lot today.
I'm kidding. Just Like That by Toots and the Maytals. Now, most people aren't even aware.
I'm one of those people.
Most people are, most people like myself at one time, reggae did not go beyond.
Bob Marley?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I thought you were just pausing like you usually do.
Dramatic pause. Or
Did you take one of those gummies, did you?
Kevin's forgotten his name.
Just don't throw up or anything.
Oh shit. Most people's knowledge of reggae doesn't go too far beyond Bob Marley or maybe Peter Tosh. But Toots and the Maytals were an absolutely incredible band. They did things musically within the form of reggae that is mind blowing. It's not off this album, but anybody that questions that, I would recommend you go find Toots and the Maytals version of Louie Louie.
Yeah.
Something happens musically in that, and I can't figure out what it is, but it's like crazy what happens later in that song.
Nice.
But an amazing reggae band, and they deserve a lot more recognition than they ever got.
Awesome. All right, Mark, number 10 to you.
Well, my number 10 is the debut album of Loverboy. There were a couple big hits on that one. Obviously, Turn Me Loose was a song that basically, I mean, the man just, he had nothing to do with any relationships. He didn't want anything to do with it. And, he just banged whoever he wanted to. And, that sounded pretty good to me, but didn't quite work out that way. And, The Kid Is Hot Tonight is another one I remember.
Yeah, that's
But
a great tune.
It's just, their music was different. I mean, it just was really different. I don't have a ton to say about that record. So on to you, AJ.
Well, that's an easy one because you just said everything I'm going to, because that is my pick as well. Turn Me Loose, obviously all over the place. And what do I have on my notes here? The Kid Is Hot Tonight. And I always did like Teenage Overdose. But, 1 Foot in Hell, it was pretty interesting.
I got
to
some
me.
stories about that too, but we won't get into that today.
Perfect. But that's my number 10. We'll just jump right to number 9 because you pretty much stole my thunder there, brother.
All right. So for me, for number 9, I know you like Kiss, and there's so much Kiss stories out there. And this one I just came across and was like, oh, that's very interesting. So Gene Simmons of Kiss was dating this singer at the time, and they were playing a song, and she was getting ready to record a song, and she didn't like it. And Gene said, "You need to play this song."
Yes.
And that song was Upside Down by Diana Ross with her album Diana. Upside Down. Ooh. So Gene encouraged her to put that on the album. It ended up being her number one hit and almost her top hit of all time. But
he was very influential with a lot of different bands.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
yeah, and he was just dating her, which I thought was pretty cool. But I think he might have been loosely a producer as well. But
Yep. He produced a lot, actually. Nice pick.
Very nice pick.
All right. Kevin, to you.
Number 9. Number 9.
Number 9.
number 9, you just have to.
I'm
It's
going
one
with one of my favorites. I'm going with Love Stinks.
Yes.
Styles
yeah.
Band. Just Can't Wait. Come Back. Nighttime. And of course, the title track, Love Stinks.
Absolutely.
When I think about it, I can remember the video where the drummer is playing drums with 2 fish. Which is just a great band.
Salmon, I believe.
Were they salmon?
I have no idea.
Was
Just
he-
kidding.
Possibly,
But there's
tenderizing
a
them?
salmon boat.
Possibly
just
brown
trolling
trout?
by behind you. So,
but he didn't drop any of them. So.
Finless?
he did not.
No.
But yeah, definitely just a great album. And we've talked about this before. It was a band that was transitioning from a blues band to more of a pop band, and this one's kind of leans a little bit more to the blues than the pop, but the pop is definitely there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great pick. All right. Number 9 to you, brother.
I got Judas Priest, British Steel.
Yes, sir.
That's their iconic record as well. You have songs like Metal Gods, Breaking the Law, Grinder. Not sure what that might. I'm not sure what Grinder would be about, but I have some ideas. But and then I really did appreciate them doing a song that even I could sing while I play. And that would be Living After Midnight.
Yes.
Playing guitar and singing is difficult for some people, but in this song, your mouth and your hands are doing the same thing. So I did appreciate that, and we also played that with our band White Lightning back in the early '80s. So a little sentimental value to that one. So,
Yeah,
but
of course.
you know, I don't know as much about that record as a lot of people do, but
great
Rockin'
pick,
album.
though.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So my number 9 is something that I'm picking, and this has grown on me over the years, and I think it's really, really deserving. And 3 girls at Ridgemont High cultivated her look. And that would be Pat Benatar, Crimes of Passion.
Nice.
The 2 hits off that album are obviously Hit Me With Your Best Shot and Hell Is for Children.
that's a great song.
And it's an amazing, like, heartfelt, deep song, man. And I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about this album other than the fact that it blew up, was absolutely phenomenal, all over the place, and that's my number 9 pick.
AJ, I hate to jump in here, but I think legally, we have to mention Neil Girardo.
Yes, agreed.
At
I'm
this
sorry.
point, because
Yes.
now it is Pat Benatar and
Neil,
Girardo.
and he was inducted with her
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
So, as
And
he should have been.
And I say that jokingly because he was, I believe, part of a lot of the songwriting there, and an amazing guitarist and all of that, and did not get his recognition. But they're very careful now as they market that he is included.
Oh yeah,
in that.
absolutely, of course. So number 8 to you, right, Don?
Yes, I am on 8. So this is this band has a song on it that has the word doo-doo in it, and it's the Police Zenyatta Mondada,
Ah, yes.
which is doo-doo-doo, a da-da-da, which, again, it's not a song that I would go out and download on my phone nowadays, and Don't Stand So Close to Me is kind of a cool tune, but I wouldn't download it on my phone. But in 1980, it was like you couldn't go anywhere without hearing that song.
No way. Yeah.
And that's in the day of playing radio songs that one time in 24 hours, not like a continuous loop that they're on now. But
No shit.
but yeah, I like like the tunes, but I wouldn't go out and buy them. But for some reason, they were catchy, right? And that's kind of what was going on in the 80s.
Yeah,
where there was just music that was like, well, that's interesting. It's got a beat. I can dance to it. Whatever.
Oh, they were, all over the place, too.
Copeland is just an amazing drummer to begin with. Some of the stuff that he does is mind-boggling. As
It is mind-boggling.
it bottles the mind.
Yeah.
And then Andy Summers is just kind of gets lost. The dude's guitar style is so different than anybody else's. He's got kind of a reggae thing happening and some some nice technical stuff that he does. But great band.
Mm-hmm. All right. So 8 to you, Kev.
For number 8, I'm going to pick something. I might not be able to pronounce this properly because it's a British thing. I believe it's Argy Bargy. By the Squeeze,
Yes.
which I think is just beginning to end a phenomenal band. They had so many albums with so many great songs, and like Donnie was talking about with the Police, and it was on the radio. And if there's any younger listeners out there, they don't realize that you had two choices. You ponied up the $7.99 for the album, or you waited until it came on the radio, and you would sit there with your finger on play and record.
Right.
Yeah, the two separate buttons.
on the tape player.
Zero warning.
And you're just waiting after they come back from break or a song ends, and you're trying to get it so you can maybe edit it out later, which never happened. And then just as a song starts, you get the timing right. Your sister flies open the door and starts yelling something and ruins the recording. You just didn't, you were forced to listen to whatever the DJ was playing.
Right.
Fortunately, even the worst music back then is light years better than what we've got today.
God,
No shit.
And back then, making a like a tape for your girlfriend.
Yeah, the mixtape.
The
Yep.
mixtape meant something. Like,
Oh,
it was like,
absolutely.
man,
David
David put
was
some
all
effort
over
into
that.
this. Now it would be like, whatever, get away.
These are the words that I want to say to you. They put my feelings down to music, and I just wanted you to hear about how. Anyway,
And some of the technology, nowadays they would not appreciate. But back then, technology, when they put the orange record button in the middle of the play button,
Right.
so you could
would
push it with one
simultaneously,
finger.
right.
Yes.
Genius, engineering marvels.
Genius.
I hope that guy got taken care of for life.
Right.
I hope he's somewhere tropical right now in a $40 million home going, you know how you can just push one button to record? That was me.
Which now you can just say, hey, whatever.
Hey Siri.
Right. Hey,
Exactly.
Siri or Alexa, can you back that up and, record that and send it to all my, cloud
It's on,
services? And,
I hate it. All right, Mark. Number 8 to you.
Okay, I have the Kiss record Unmasked. It's certainly not their heaviest album out there of all time, and it was during how do I say it? It was a transitional time of the band. They were going through little, just changes. They were trying to go along with what was big out there, and they tried disco, and this one was, although there are a couple songs on it that reek of disco, like Easy As It Seems.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah. But this is not a bad record. Ace did 3 songs on it, and, besides his incredible gift to write lyrics, other than that, it's not a bad record. It's different. I like the song What Makes the World Go Round by Paul. She's So European.
Yes.
And one day, have you ever taken 5 Dexatrim and listened to a record? I was mesmerized by You're All That I Want that day. And I don't think I did that much after that, but it was just back in the day when I would just take anything.
That's a great song too. All That I Want, for sure.
Is there a guide of what albums you should listen to on 5 Dexatrim?
I don't. Do they even sell that anymore? I mean, hell.
not.
Awesome pick though, Mark. So number 8 to me, and this song, I'm sorry, this album for me has a special spot just because of one song, and I'm picking it solely for that, and that is Scorpions, Animal Magnetism. All right. The song The Zoo has a special place to me from Mark to my left and our late brother David. They always did this song, and I always loved listening to it, and that's all I'm going to say about that album, because maybe someone else will have it after. So number 7 of you, Donald.
So my number 7 just goes back to your number 8 is Pat Benatar.
That was my number
yeah.
9, but anyway.
Oh, sorry. Crimes of Passion. Hell is for Children, I think, is a badass song.
Oh, awesome song.
I love
Spoke
that
to a
song.
lot of people,
Yep.
didn't it?
So
Amen.
my 7.
All right. So 7 to you then, Kev.
7 to me is an artist that I really, he comes into that overplayed zone now, but he was huge at that time. I had this album, probably one of the first, vinyl albums that I bought myself, and that's Billy Joel's Glass Houses.
Mm-hmm.
It was ever present at that time. Just great tunes. I mean, the man knew how to write a song.
One of the best songwriters.
Yeah, and he had some
To
great
date,
attitude. Remember how I found you there alone in your electric chair, and I told you dirty jokes until you smiled. I mean,
Yeah. He's a good lyricist, good songwriter.
As a elementary school
Right up
student,
there with Ace Frehley.
that was that was fantastic. Don't ask me why. Sometimes a fantasy, still rock and roll to me. I mean, come on, you couldn't go through 24 hours without hearing that 3 times.
It's still timeless.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Today,
Absolutely.
His music's timeless.
A lot of this stuff is, and I think that's what's important about it, and the longevity of it just shows how fucking great it was.
And it's funny because we were talking about rockabilly earlier, and if you look at it's still rock and roll to me. That is the same format. That's the same song structure of a 50s song. That rockabilly used that same format and just kind of turned up the distortion a little bit, and so it all kind of ties back to it's Chuck Berry. It's all Chuck Berry. It's all Chuck Berry.
All right. So number 7 to you, Mark.
Speaking of timeless, this is a band that went through a lead singer change that we all know about. Bon Scott, personally my favorite singer of this band, although you can actually add Axl Rose to it because he played sitting in a wheelchair for them, if you remember that. But this is AC/DC Back in Black. Brian Johnson I do believe they were beginning to record this before Bon Scott had passed away.
Yes.
And it's timeless. I mean, and a lot of it is complete fatigue, song fatigue. I mean, you shook me all night long. If I hear that again, if I don't hear it again, I can still recite every lyric and every chord and whatever. But I mean, how many hits on this? I mean, it starts off with Hell's Bells. I mean, I don't know how you want to take that song. It doesn't sound, he's into evil and all that. Like, of course, Dr. Doofenshmirtz from, I mean, I don't know which evil he's into, but if you're into evil, you're a friend of mine. But they used to play that at the Patriots games. They're all over the league, the NFL, every time the defense had to make some plays. And, I mean, Shoot the Thrill. What do you do for the money, honey? The title track. Have a drink on me. Noise pollution. Just iconic. Just so iconic, and it's timeless today. It just sounds like it fits right in because how could it not? They play it over and over again
because it's the basis of all of it at some point. But it's funny you talk about fatigue with that album, but that one almost goes beyond because when I listen to the album as a whole, we just flipped the tape over. For a whole weekend.
Sorry to interrupt, but I was just curious about what your thought on the vagina was, as a whole. Sorry, Kev. Sorry.
I can't. Oh, no, I'm done.
Okay.
I can't do it.
Well, good, because I'm sure that I won't be the last one here, but my number 7 is also Back in Black. Mark, of course, just spoke about every song on the record. But one thing that I will say is, Bon Scott passing away, God rest his soul,
doing Bon Scott stuff,
and Brian Johnson to come in and fill those shoes and then sing on one of the biggest albums of all fucking time is just, pretty astounding.
And he pulled it off big time, too.
He pulled it off. They're still massive to this day. They're touring this summer and selling out stadiums. So I will leave it at that just in case. All right, that's number 6 to you, Dongo.
So, number 6 to me is a song more than the album. It's Bob Seger is the artist, and the album was Against the Wind. I love the song Running Against the Wind. It's a beautiful song, beautiful ballad. But I love Bob Seger too. He rocks. Some other song on there is Betty Lou's Going Out Tonight. That's just your classic like Roadhouse blues kind of song.
Oh, yeah.
Just a lot of fun. His music was fun. So
Definitely. All right, Kevin, 6 to you.
Well, number 6 is another icon. Probably not his most commercial success except for one song, and that is Paul Simon's One Trick Pony.
Nice.
Attached to a movie of the same name, but Late in the Evening was, again, a massive hit, and love that song and the whole album. But the one that hit me on that one, most people don't know. It's called Ace in the Hole. It was actually recorded live with Richard T. singing, who's got a very bassy voice that counters what Paul Simon does. And it's just a great, badass blues song played by Paul Simon. Nice. And you could arguably say that this is where he started beginning to, whether it was experience and expose other forms of music or exploit them, depending on how you look at it. Like he got a lot of credit and flack for Graceland later on, using Ladysmith Black Mambazo and giving those people a career that they never would have had. But a lot of people,
right,
I believe today would call that cultural appropriation.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, right. Oh, good. Nice pick, though.
Thank you.
Mark, number 6 to you.
Scorpions, Animal Magnetism.
Yes, sir. Good, I beat you to one for a change.
Well, yeah, you did. There is a song called Falling in Love on that, which happens every day. And, that's true. Uncle Ray used to say, I could fall with 100 women, Mark. But the obvious song, as AJ brought up, which has a lot of sentimental value to both of us, is The Zoo. Mm-hmm. Little quick story. We were coming back from when we did the urn drop up in the cemetery in Littleton, and we're coming down the highway, and AJ wanted to play some of David's songs, and The Zoo comes on, and I'm thinking, we put on a Scorpion song, and it was from a show that we did at Guilford High School, and I'm like, oh, cool. So is that you idiot? And I'm like, no kidding, huh? It's like, we sounded okay. I didn't sound that bad. But let me tell you something.
Was a little rough around the edges.
Yes. Let me tell something to that little whippersnapper, Mark White, back then. I can play circles all around you all day, all night. Which I can.
Awesome.
That song's riff is just...
I don't think we were playing
awesome.
it right. I don't think we were playing it right.
Who cares? Who cares if you were playing? It's just anything close.
Yeah.
I was like 19, and I was the oldest one in the band, but yeah,
It was a lot of fun, man. Go ahead, Kev.
Absolutely. No, that was it.
That riff is
fantastic
timeless.
riff.
One thing that I did forget to say when I brought the album up was their album covers, just how controversial they were. And this one, of course, has the woman on her knees with the guy facing her. You see the back of his jeans, and for some reason, there's a dog there. And I don't even want to know. Exactly. All right. So 6 to me. This is an album from a band that I hated back in the day. Hated. And now I can't even express how much I love them. And that is Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
Yes.
It's so kick-ass. Literally, my hair is literally standing up right now, as people around me can see. Just the title track itself, We Are the Road Crew. God, why'd the name just leave me? Fucking the Reptile one. Love Me Like a Reptile. There's some incredible stuff on it. We Are the Road Crew, though. Just the way he sings that chorus on "We Are the Road Crew." Just, I don't know.
That song was a regular on the Headbangers Ball every week.
The Ace of Spades. Oh, loves it with him singing up in the air. That's how Mark had his microphone set up at first for podcasting.
What?
Just like Lemmy. But anyway, all right. So number 5 to you, Donald.
Number 5 to me, it's going to be Van Halen, Women and Children First.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You know, Van Halen kicks ass. Eddie Van Halen's one of my favorite guitar players, other than someone else who might be on this list before. But the first 2 tracks are amazing. The rest of the album kind of didn't hold up as well as the first 2, but still pretty rocking nonetheless.
Oh, man. All right. So that's 5 to you, Kev.
And the cradle will rock. So here's my commercial pick from 1980, because I remember going to Royals Pizza on Friday nights, and we'd always get a large pepperoni pizza. And for some unknown reason, my father would always get me a root beer, which is why I probably still don't care for root beer today.
Right.
But it was everywhere. It was on the jukebox, and you could go in and pick songs and play it on the jukebox, or you could wait a minute and somebody else would
pay for it.
Somebody else would just pick a song off it. But REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity, and you can call it corporate rock, you can call it whatever else.
Arena rock.
I saw them a few years after this came out, and Gary Richrath is one killer fucking guitarist. That guy was incredible. Great songwriting, great music. I mean, again, everything from Don't Let Him Go, Tough Guys, Out of Season, Shaking It Loose. And again, like we were talking about before, all those songs are structured very much the same as the music from the 50s, just done with a different flair.
Another timeless band. Timeless.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. 5 to you, Mark.
Okay, I went with Molly Hatchet's Beating the Odds.
Yeah.
Jimmy Farrer, I believe, was the lead singer for 2 records. This is the one that I think was more of a commercial success. He replaced Danny Joe Brown, who came back to the band after a couple records. But I remember seeing on the I had bought the record. I had bought the record anyway, but he was on Dick Clark on the American Bandstand, or they were, I should say. And the way they just 3 guitar players, they're coming in and out of leads, taking turns. You know, the Beating the Odds is a great riff, and then The Rambler is a very emotional song about a man who temporarily leaves his wife and then realizes, you know what, she was the right one all along. And it's brought tears to my eyes, listen to it. So, I mean, it's basically those 2 songs, but that's why I picked this record. Nice. So thank you.
That's a great pick. All right. My number 5 has also been chosen, and that's Judas Priest, British Steel. We talked about the hits on it, obviously Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight, Breaking the Law. I probably never, ever need to hear again in my life, but you didn't mention Metal Gods.
I believe he did.
You did? Okay.
Quite briefly.
Well, anyway, that's one of the greatest metal songs ever. This album, you know, everyone talks about Black Sabbath, which I believe is truly the start of heavy metal, but Priest was a damn close second, and that's all I'll say about it. All right. So we are at number 4 already, Donald.
Number 4 to me is going to be Rush, Permanent Waves.
Nice.
I love Spirit of Radio, Free Will. Those were kind of like the big hits off of that album. You know, progressive rock was kind of like, you know, in the 80s, you had the progressive rock lane, you had the hair metal in the later 80s. But these guys, I mean, this was their 7th studio album at the time, and they just kept on rocking, you know.
One of the most talented bands in history, without a doubt.
Peart.
Mm-hmm.
You said it right.
Kicking butt on the drums, yeah.
Just
all
amazing.
3 were great musicians.
Yep.
All right, so that's number 4 to you, Kev.
Number 4 to me is no surprise to anybody. For me, I'm picking The Clash's Sandinista. It was an album that kind of got out of control for them. Ended up being, what was it, 6 3 records, 6 sides.
Right.
And there's just some great stuff on that. Charlie Don't Surf. You got the Call Up. You've got one of my favorites. They actually the bass players sing, and nobody knows why, on Guns of Brixton, but I absolutely love Paul Simonon singing on that song. It's like when the Stones let Keith Richards sing. It's like,
exactly.
It's not a great idea, but it comes through. It's a nice change, and it's kind of fun. Sure. But definitely some great songs on that. Police on My Back, Lightning Strikes Not Once But Twice. Just a fantastic album packed with musical styles and variations.
I was kind of hoping London Calling was released in 1980. I really wanted to pick that one. But it just didn't make the cut. 79. But
Great pick, though.
Close.
Okay, Mark, 4 to you.
Okay, it's Women and Children First by Van Halen again. You have Everybody Wants Some and The Cradle Will Rock. Well, reverse that in order. And the title track, actually, there is no title track, but it's actually... this could be Magic, we better save the women and children first. Mm-hmm. And, it's a great record. Eddie Van Halen is just, he's worth a listen to anything he plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God rest his soul, too.
Yes.
Except the one with Gary Sharon. Just kidding.
All
right.
That was, yeah.
So number 4 to me. And my number 4 is my favorite band of all time, and that is Kiss. And it's Unmasked. A massive pop/power pop album. I love this album. It's very polarizing for a Kiss album, but I don't think there's a bad song on it. And I'm sure most of the Kiss base out there is laughing at me, but I just love it. Starts out with Is That You, which is actually a cover tune, and just keeps going with candy power pop, and I love everything about it. Naked City being one of my favorite songs. Like Mark had already said, Ace has 3 tunes on it, which he started getting a lot more, play once his solo album came out in 1978. You got Dynasty and then this album, and
that was it.
They're like, and that was it, exactly.
Well, actually Elder.
And yeah, exactly. But as far as this album, I just love it. And that's all I'll say about it. And we'll move up to number 3 to Donald.
My number 3 is a repeat, but it still is an awesome to say again is REO Speedwagon, High Infidelity. That's that's 80s sound to me, the anthem rock, if that's what you want to classify them as. Keep On Loving You, Taking on the Run, just awesome hits.
Incredible album.
Kind of remember being in school chasing after the girls.
Yeah.
Those songs at the dances.
They were definitely on your mixtapes.
Right.
For sure. All right. 3 to you, Kev.
3 to me is one of probably my favorite guitarist at this point in my life. It would be Making Movies by Dire Straits. Mark Knopfler is such a fantastic guitarist. I got to see him down the waterfront in Boston a couple of years back. He's shorter and rounder and balder than he used to be, but still kicks ass on the guitar.
He's awesome.
He is just phenomenal. If you ever get the chance, Neck and Neck he did with Chet Atkins is just some of the finest guitar picking you'll ever hear. But that album had great ones: Tunnel of Love, Romeo and Juliet, has been covered by so many people, Skate Away, Espresso Love, Hand in Hand, Solid Rock. I mean, just a phenomenal album, and to listen to it today, it doesn't sound really dated at all to me. It still sounds very much relevant.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Awesome pick. And what's funny is, I don't know why, if I was looking at something else online, but that one passed me by. I never even saw it in the list of the year. So, I mean, I'm sure I missed a bunch of them, but awesome. That was number 3, correct? So number 3 to you, Mark.
Well, it's been picked as well, but I picked Rush Permanent Waves. The first song is Spirit of Radio. And when I think of Rush, I think of that song. Yeah. Comes out with a hammer-on lead, and then 3 of the best musicians in the world, and they're all together on one stage, and this is a 6-song record. A lot of the songs are, I mean, you got, you got Jacob's Ladder with Free Will, which, is another song that you still hear to this day. Both
Absolutely.
Donnie talked about it before, and, maybe not my favorite Rush record, but it's worth mentioning in this list because it's a great record. That's not saying much. It's not my favorite record. It's just my favorite of a bunch of great records.
Damn good, right?
For my favorite records of Rush. So
you can't really fit that many songs on an album when
there's only
one of
6
them
of them
takes up one side.
right. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
All right. So I have a feeling this is going to happen throughout the rest of our lists here, but mine's also a repeat at number 3, and that's Van Halen, Women and Children First. So I won't go too into detail other than the fact that I will always say this a million times. You folks will hear me say it. But Van Halen, that's probably one of the best runs, if not the best run of 4 albums in a row from their debut, through Fair Warning, right? But this album to me, I find it, I don't know, I like it better than Fair Warning. I think it's one of their best for sure. I mean, a few songs you guys I don't think mentioned. I said this before and I was wrong, but Take Your Whiskey Home and in a simple rhyme, just fucking incredible. And I will go number 2 to you.
Cool.
Gongo.
Thank you. Number 2 for me is going to be AC/DC Back in Black. Just an iconic album of the decade, to start the decade, with every song on that album being awesome. I'm one who can not get overspent on a tune. Like if I hear it on the radio, I'll crank it up, and I get it.
You Shook Me All Night Long. That one was
right. You Shook Me All Night Long. I was thinking something else, but I mean that, you hear it everywhere and it still gets you tapping your foot and singing along. So that's a good mark of a good tune. So.
Yeah, of course.
Now, there was the one heavy song they would play at do you remember the music hall down in Concord?
Yeah.
That's the one heavy song. It was all crap, and they'd play that one. It's like, oh, this is supposed to get us in a good mood. Yeah, the same one every time.
Every time, right?
Fun fact, while they were in the studio down the hallway was Talking Heads, and they were recording an album. I don't believe anybody's stealing that one.
Remain in the Light, I think. Was the,
yeah.
Which is kind of interesting when you think about, just the difference in that. I was reading about somebody. And
did they hang out?
Probably not. I'm gonna guess no on that one. But I was trying to think if I was reading about a producer that was flying back and forth from LA to New York. He was producing the Grateful Dead, and I can't remember what the other band was, but it was like, what? Why would the same producer be doing? Right. I can't remember who it was, whether it was
maybe that's where
Seals
the
and
half
Croft
pound of marijuana
from McCartney
was left from the Grateful Dead, and Paul McCartney was like, "Hey guys, you forgot this," and he got arrested.
Actually, the one from that era that I've read in several different places, like everybody imagines the heavy metal bands were the ones that were doing all the drugs or all that. I've read from several different bands that they all wanted to go in the studio after Fleetwood Mac. Because Fleetwood Mac had so much fucking money at that time that they would just lose mountains of cocaine and just leave them.
Leave it on
basically,
the soundboard.
you would make your money back going into the studio after Fleetwood Mac just by saving on what you would have spent on blow. So it worked out pretty good. It's like, little bonus, free gift.
So we are at number 2 to you, Kevin.
Dose. So my number 2 pick is a band that I would not have admitted to liking in 1980, and it is my number 2 pick because, as we all have kind of mentioned in discussing this, 1980 had some great songs, but there weren't too many albums that turned in more than 1 or 2 great songs.
Agreed.
Very, again, transitional from style to style, and some bands were forming what they would become. You can see the groundwork of what some of the bands would turn into. But this is a solid effort. You've got Mirror in the Bathroom, Hands Off, She's Mine, Two Swords, Twist and Crawl, Can't Get Used to Losing You, the cover, Best Friend, I'm talking, of course, about either the beat or the English beat, depending on which side of the pond you grew up on. The album is I Just Can't Stop It, and it is 1,000% listenable to me today, from beginning to end.
What is the band again?
The beat or the English beat.
Oh, okay.
Depending
I'm
on.
sorry, I had never heard of them. So
It's kind of.
I thought you were talking about the beat itself that the band played.
Oh no. That is the band, and they were part of the Specials, the ska offshoot from punk and reggae and ska, all kind of live together in the same area.
Nice. Awesome. It's funny, though. I'm glad Mark said that because I didn't want to say it first. I'm like, who's the fucking band you're talking about?
Who now?
All right. That's number 2 to you, Mark. So go ahead and take my pick.
Okay, well, in this record, the iconic, I use that word a lot, the man with the cross. If you went down to Hampton Beach, every other shirt was an Ozzy Osbourne Blizzard of Oz shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And what a great record. Probably one of the top 5 lead guitar players that have ever lived, who did not live long enough, unfortunately, was Randy Rhoads.
Incredible.
And this record starts off with I Don't Know. They're basically trying to, what are we supposed to do, Ozzy? What do we do? We're all doomed. I mean, at least that's what you've been telling us for 10 years. What am I supposed to do? And he says, I don't know. Exactly. And the lead on that song, I mean, obviously the most fatigued song, and again, top 5 is Crazy Train. Yep. If I hear that song one more time, it'll be one time too many, but it's a great tune, obviously. Revelation, Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Just a song about let my mother live, and that, what we do to the planet. I won't really get into my views on that. I don't, yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to be putting poison into the earth, okay?
Exactly.
That's all. Thank you.
All right.
Truth.
Well, like I said, I knew it for sure, and I won't bring up my number 1 right now, but I know that's getting robbed from my thunder too. So my number 2 is Blizzard of Oz as well. I mean, this album had a special place to me, although it was later in the 80s when I really sat down and took it all in over and over. What I will say is, I mean, just the songwriting on this album by Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake was just friggin' incredible. And for Ozzy to come out of Sabbath and go into a solo career and kick off with this was just incredible. But one of my, Mr. Crowley, that song to me is one of my favorites of all time. Revelation, Mother Earth as well. But just the lyrics in Mr. Crowley and the fact that Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake were just shunned so badly on the royalties, and everything about it just was very upsetting to me. And I'm sure that's thank you to Miss Sharon Osbourne. But I mean, they actually they re-recorded the album without their, bass and drums on it just to get them out completely. But
wow.
But still, I mean, it's an icon album for sure. Number 2 to you, Donnie, which go ahead.
No, it's my number 1. So yeah, so I'm on number 1.
Yeah,
because I started it off, and it's gonna just fall right into
That's what I
Ozzy
meant.
Blizzard of Oz.
It's our Blizzard of Oz cast.
I won't go too much into it, but I mean, it's like you, in 1980, I probably wasn't spinning Ozzy, but when the Randy Rhoads tribute album came out, which was pretty much predominantly Blizzard of Oz,
Yes.
that got me back into that, drew me that way, and it made me the biggest fan of Randy Rhoads. He's the best guitar player, in my opinion, for rock and roll.
Incredible. Incredible.
Played on Quiet Riot.
Yep.
Quiet Riot, too. So, I mean,
Yes.
Their first albums in Japan or China, right? They
Yeah,
never
they-
released them over here.
Yeah, so when Quiet Riot came out with their big album, there was the song Thunderbird your typical ballad, but it was always kind of special to me because they had dedicated that to the memory of Randy Rhoads.
Awesome. Nice. All right. So, Kevin, that's number one to you.
So my number one pick, I believe, has been at least twice, if not 3 times. And I was pretty sure that was going to happen. Yeah. But it was one of those albums that, to me, again, with a little scarcity and start to finish great albums. But British Steel was, I mean, I've always been a huge Judas Priest fan through most of their phases. And that was just a fantastic album. And the fact that the cover horrified my father because he was always scared of razor blades. He thought when we were little we would cut ourselves with those. So I love
those were the worst ones.
Oh,
too.
absolutely,
double-edged.
Oh
ones.
yes,
Yeah.
but I always love the fact that it made my father uncomfortable. That was, as a 10, 12, 13-year-old or whatever else. United. Another great song off that nobody mentioned. United We Stand. I mean, that's talk about the anthem. I mean, that was, if you look up Anthem, there's that song. I don't know. I think we've covered pretty much everything else. Metal Gods. The sound, anthem. Yeah, the sound of that was pool cues and forks and knives being dropped. That's how they got that cool sound, which is very, very cool.
Well, the Rockstar was based on that band, right? The movie The Rockstar.
Ripper Owens.
Yes.
Ripper
Tim
Owens.
Ripper Owens.
Is that the guy that replaced?
Halford for a short period. Yeah.
That's the story of the movie.
And you talk about all these people that can't do the vocals anymore, but Halford is still there.
And Ripper Owens is still there.
Is he?
Unbelievable.
I haven't heard anything that he's done since then, but I mean,
he hasn't
good
lost
Lord.
a beat. All right, Mark, go ahead and take my number one.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously AJ knows my number one. It's Black Sabbath, Heaven, Hell.
Damn right.
The first 4 songs are incredible. You have Lady Evil, which Ronnie James Dio was singing very warmly about a woman that lived in Laconia who used to say, and don't forget AJ to dream evil. That's what that song's about. But pizza. Yeah, the title track is incredible. You have Children of the Sea, but my favorite song on the whole record, probably my favorite song, my favorite open on any record I've ever heard is Neon Nights. Incredible. I mean, listen to these lyrics. These lyrics basically are about us here. Cry out to legions of the brave, time again to save us from the jackals of the street. Ugh. Ride out, protectors of the realm, captains at the helm, sail across the sea of light. I mean, It just gets right to the point.
The whole album does, in my opinion.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love the album cover. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, the angels having a cigarette, which is kind of funny because that's basically what most of the women that went to these prayer meetings would do. They'd all be chimney smoking, talking about Christ and everything. I mean, I'm not going to disparage them. Their hearts were in the right place. Their lungs weren't, but but yeah, I'm going to let AJ finish on this. I don't want to take everything away from him. So there you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But same thing. I mean, just like I said with Ozzy going solo on Blizzard, same thing here with Dio filling Ozzy's shoes and Sabbath. He had a really hard time with the, starting out with that. But you want to talk about coming in and just kicking ass. I mean, everything about this album. I mean, when there's a fucking guitar riff that the entire arena or stadium is singing when it kicks off, that's just an amazing riff. And of course, Tony Iommi is the riff master. But Mark already talked about the songs. I mean, the title track is one of the greatest songs ever written, in my opinion. But just to think about Children of the Sea being the very first song that Tony Iommi and Ronnie James Dio wrote together, and hearing that beautiful voice kicking into the downright evil. Yeah, the greatest voice in heavy metal history, in my opinion. Halford's right up there, I agree. But just Ronnie James Dio is number one in my book, and just a fucking great album. And great episode, guys. That was a lot of fun, I think. So I thank you all. Kevin, thank you for hosting and having the incredible food.
Thanks. Thanks, guys, for being here and had fun.
Awesome.
Great time again, AJ. Thank you.
Of course.
Had a blast, and thank you for listening to the show, and we'll talk to you next episode.
Awesome. Thank you out there. Hopefully you're getting into a little bit of pastimes at 80s High and seeing what we're all about. And we hope to see you again real soon. And we are out.
You've been listening to Pastimes at 80s High. Our passion is the nostalgia from the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. When times were more simple, times were more fun.
Hey, bud, let's party.
And we weren't stuck in our phones all day.
Inconceivable!
We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can send an email to pastimes@80shigh@gmail.com and hit the website at pastimes@80shigh.com. See you next time.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.